What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Casts Campfires. Thanks for checking it out. I hope you're having a great week. This week we are talking about lure visibility, or specifically how depth of water affects lure colors and how fish can see them, which is basically a long-winded way of saying if you're fishing deeper, use these colors. If you're fishing shallow, you can pretty much use any color you want. And then it'll depend on the situation or the context of how you're fishing or what you're fishing or where as to what color you actually use, right? So water clarity, conditions, forage, all of that will play into some of the color choice you have, but depth of water will also play into what colors you should use and which ones you probably shouldn't use, based on just how light penetrates water and how water depth and that light affect colors in the water. So I was reading a bunch of articles this week and of course, doing some research about this topic because I don't want to just go in blindly or give you wrong information or act like I don't know what I'm talking about, because part of my personality is that I'm just always curious. I'm always trying to learn things. And with fishing, there's so much to learn. I feel like I'm constantly just staring at my computer screen or phone or something, reading about, just odd things to do with fishing. And this week I came across some lure visibility articles. One of them said this: larger wavelengths, such as red, orange, yellow, are absorbed within the first 50 meters. Shorter wavelengths, such as green, blue, and violet, are absorbed less and are able to reach deeper into the water. So keep that in mind as we go through these colors. We're just going to take every color in the rainbow and we're going to go through them. So keep that in mind as we're going through this. Longer wavelengths disappear or dull or lose their color faster than colors with shorter wavelengths, right? And we'll get into that a little bit more. So let's start. I'm looking at the screen here. My graphic is left to right. So let's start on the left and we'll work our way across down the rainbow. So if you want to keep just something in your mind and stick in your mind, just remember the rainbow: Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, and then you can throw black at the end of it. And how water affects these is going to be directly related to the rainbow. So let's start with red. Red is the color that disappears the fastest underwater. So if you are, fishing in water 20 feet or shallower, so anywhere from 0 to 20 feet, you're good. Red will show up and it will be just fine. Now, as you get deeper, it might get duller. So if you're throwing a bright red, shiny, crankbait, if it dives 20 feet down, it's going to be pretty dull by the time it reaches that depth, because red has the longest wavelength in its in the color spectrum, or I don't know if that's the right terminology, but it has the longest wavelength of any color in the rainbow. It's going to disappear faster with low light conditions. So as it gets deeper, it gets darker, right? That's just how it works. Shallow water, and let's assume that this is all in relatively clear water, right? Shallow water and very clear, you can see very well. Light penetrates it very well. It's relatively bright. So a bright color with a long wavelength like red will show up really well. But as it gets darker, it's harder to see those long wavelengths. And so it starts to disappear quickly in the dark, right? So red is going to be something that if you're fishing shallow water, now anything up to 20 feet is going to be fine. And to be fair, most creeks, rivers, ponds, in general lakes, you're going to be fine. You're not going to be fishing more than 20 feet very often. I would think if you're bass fishing, you're going to be fishing. Now, there are, deep water reservoirs and things like that where all this doesn't apply. Some of the Great Lakes and lakes up north, I know, get really, really deep. There are some around here in the Ozarks even that get pretty deep. I've fished not at the bottom, but I've fished in 70 to 80 feet of water before. But in general, if you're bass fishing, you're going to be within 20 feet, depth anyway, so you shouldn't have to worry about it, any of these colors, to be fair. But just know that if you are going deeper than 20 feet, that red is going to just basically wash out. And so what happens is, there was a cool video that I saw on social media this week that kind of portrayed this really well. So they had a diver with, the like pipes colored different colors of the rainbow attached to a longer pipe, and then they started diving down, and this was in the ocean. So it was really clear water, really good visibility. And it showed you how the colors appeared the deeper the diver went. And so what happened was the colors didn't just wash out and disappear. Like it wasn't that you couldn't see it. It just got so dull that it turned into like this grayish brown color. So just know that that's what's going to happen. If you fish a red crawdad soft plastic in 50 feet of water, it's not that it disappears and it's just invisible down at the bottom. It's just that it's like a dingy gray brown, like it doesn't really appear to be any color, which could be a good or bad thing depending on the circumstances, I guess. But just know that red, typically shallow water, is your best friend when you're fishing red, right? The next is going to be yellow, and orange, which is kind of the same concept. Now, orange will show up just a little bit deeper than red. A lot of the articles I read had it around 30 feet deep is where orange will start to wash out. But in general, I would say the same principles apply to orange as apply to red. So if you're fishing, shallow water, power fishing, throw orange all you want. It's going to stand out really well. It's going to catch the attention of the fish. It's going to be a good contrast. It's going to mimic a bluegill pretty well, or some sort of panfish, sunfish, that kind of thing. So throw it all you want. Now, if you get into deeper water, then you need to start considering, okay, is this getting washed out? Is it staying orange? Is it still visible? All those things. But in general, same principles apply to orange as apply to red, because the light absorbs the color about the same, right? The next is going to be yellow. Now, this is where it kind of jumps up quite a bit, honestly. You go from red and orange being pretty similar, 20, 30 feet deep, to yellow showing up close to 60 feet deep before it starts to wash out. So if you're fishing yellow, or chartreuse, right, is people have said that chartreuse, bass see chartreuse the best of any color. I don't know how bass see color. I haven't done any of that sort of research. This is just lure color and how water depth affects them, and light absorbs them and that kind of thing. But yellow does stand out in deeper water. Now this says, like I said, all my research up to 60 feet. So after 60 feet, it starts to get dull, and actually kind of looks the same color as green. It looks, they both tend to look like this dull yellow mustard kind of color before it turns like that grayish brown. But much deeper. It's a big jump from orange to yellow. And I don't know if it's just the brightness of the yellow versus red and orange. I'm sure it's more scientific than that. But as you're looking at these colors, the yellow is really kind of the brightest of these colors in the rainbow. And it does appear to go deeper, or to show up, as it goes deeper, up to 60 feet. So if you're throwing yellow baits or chartreuse baits, right, you can have the freedom to fish them in deeper water and know that that color is still showing up the way it's supposed to, till you hit about that 60 feet mark there. So moving on to green. So these next four colors, in my opinion, are the ones that are more, I don't know, because you can throw a lot of naturals like browns and that kind of thing in there as well. But green, blue, purple, and black are kind of four of the staple colors for at least soft plastics, but even a lot of hard baits as well. So starting with green is going to be very similar to yellow. And, in that video I was talking about earlier, green and yellow kind of, they washed out kind of the same rate, and they kind of turned the same color the deeper they got before they got completely washed out, right, to that grayish brown color. But about 70 feet is going to be your max with green. So if you're throwing a green pumpkin Senko, you can throw it up to 70 feet deep and it's still going to appear green. It will be a dull green, but it will still appear green in the water. So I think that's why green is such a popular color. Not only is it natural and it kind of mimics a lot of the bass's forage really well, it also can be fished really deep, as well as really shallow. So that's the thing to remember with all these colors. You can fish all of these colors shallow all day long, all you want. The conditions of the water, the bite, the time of year, the forage, those are going to determine your shallow water colors. But when you're fishing deep, as we have been, in the summer, the reality is color tends to be more important because you don't want to be throwing a color that doesn't show up in deep water if you're trying to fish deep water, right? So greens in about 70 feet of water is going to be, before they're going to show up well in 70 feet before they wash out. Now, we take another kind of big jump after we leave green. So when you go to blue, purple, and black, you get another kind of big jump up this spectrum. And with blue, you can go about 90 feet, so about 20 feet further, and you'll still get that blue color before it really washes out and turns gray, brown, and just colorless and whatever. But if you're fishing 90 feet of water with any type of lure, it's going to have to be blue, purple, or black, really. Otherwise, it doesn't matter what color you're throwing. If you're throwing it that deep, they're not going to see that color anyway. But if you are fishing that deep, specifically with colored lures, if you're wanting to use a specific color, go with blue, purple, or black. Now, purple and black, purple's kind of similar to blue, honestly, 90 to 100 feet. They're similar colors in the rainbow. They've got about the same color wavelength, so they're very, very similar colors. I would apply everything to purple that you would apply to blue, just like orange and red. They react almost the exact same in water and in light as they get deeper and deeper. So blue and purples for your really deep fishing, and then if you're just going to the bottom of the ocean, you're going to want black. So black is 100 plus feet. I would say, I don't know how deep, honestly, but all of my research is at 100 plus. 100 plus feet, black lures, they're going to stay black until they hit, some unknown depth over 100 feet deep in the water. So if you're fishing more than 100 feet deep, more power to you. I don't think I could do that. Now, some deep sea fishermen, obviously, you're going to be fishing that deep sometimes. But if you're freshwater fishing over 100 feet deep for any type of freshwater fish, and you want the color to show up, it needs to be black. Now, I will say this about black lures. I think that black lures are underrated across the board. And what I mean by that is, in low light, murky water conditions, we always throw black, right? Black and blue is kind of the go-to. But I think in clear water on sunny days, black is kind of slept on. Because if you're thinking about it, if it's a sunny, warm day, the fish are down deep and you're throwing soft plastics or jigs or something like that, the fish are looking up at whatever's coming toward them, right? Or they might be foraging along the bottom. But generally speaking, if the lure is coming to them, they're looking up when they see it. And if it's a bright sunny day with no clouds and they're looking up, whatever color you're throwing is just getting washed out by the backlight of the sun, and they're just seeing a silhouette and a shadow anyway. So if you throw a black lure, it just stands out more because it's a dark silhouette and a dark shadow of a black lure, so it just pops a little bit more, or it's just darker so they can pick it up and see it better. And so I think in really sunny conditions, no clouds in the sky, warm weather, I think black, specifically jigs and soft plastics, are kind of slept on. And I think, I've had success with them in areas where you would think, nope, this is a green pumpkin Senko, kind of area, flip this green pumpkin jig or worm at this dock or this laydown or whatever in shallow clear water in the summer and not have much luck, switch to a black, move a little bit deeper, and that's where the fish are. Now, I could have thrown the green pumpkin a little bit deeper and caught the fish too. I don't know. It might have been that. But I would tend to think that the black stands out more or is easier to detect and pick up for the fish if they're only seeing the shadows anyway. So in certain conditions, I think black can be an all-around, year-round, no matter the conditions, kind of color. But certainly if you're fishing deep and dark waters, you're going to want black. So there you go, guys. The rainbow of colors: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, and then black as well. And how they react, how light and water depth affects those colors. Like I said, if you're fishing shallow water, if you're a shallow water power fisherman, bank angler, ponds, rivers, creeks, that kind of thing, this may not apply to you as much because the depth of your water is going to not really matter that much as far as how it affects the lure color. But if you are fishing out on lakes, reservoirs, some deep water, and you're trying to target fish really deep, knowing how the light and depth of the water affects your lure can be very helpful in choosing the right color at the right depths, right? Some of those depths are pretty close together, so it means, okay, I could throw either color, or maybe I want to go with the color that will go just that little bit deeper so that I can target some fish that might be a little bit deeper without sacrificing the color of the lure that I've chosen, because I think that might help me catch the fish, right? So that is how, in a broad general sense, how light and depth affect colors of lures. Hopefully that's helpful for you guys, and when you go out next time, you're a little bit more informed about, like, what depth you're fishing and what colors do better in those depths, or which ones show up better in those depths, and you can pick your colors based on that. Maybe have some better luck, catch some more fish, and have more fun. Guys, thanks for checking out another episode of Casts Campfires. As always, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you leave a like or a good rating or review. It really helps out the channel, helps the show. Guys, thanks again for checking it out, and we will see you on the next one.